All right, here we go. We are live. Hey, how's it going, John? Thanks again
Good.
for joining. How are you doing? How's your night going?
Doing pretty well. Kids are bathed, ready for bed. So
Awesome,
the late
awesome.
night being a dad, you know how it goes.
Exactly, I do. I know exactly how it goes. So once again, really appreciate you taking the time. It's been awesome just following you on Instagram. And just a little shout out for you, anybody who's going to be joining us. Go check out John on Instagram. I think he's got you got a little bit more followers than me. No, a lot more. So don't even worry
Follower
about
count does not matter. It does not matter.
yeah. So, anyways, I'm really excited. I'm just looking forward to just kind of get to know you better. Just really kind of get the history of just how you really got into collecting. Your collection is awesome, by the way, and I know
Thank
we
you.
can see some of it in the background here. Which is I saw the video that you made on how you built that cabinet. That was awesome. So,
Thank you. Yeah.
all right, let's go ahead and get started with the questions.
Sure.
Let's go ahead and start. So, first question is, how long have you been collecting, and was there like a specific thing that got you into collecting?
Yeah. So about over 30 years now in collecting. My dad got me into it originally. He gave me his baseball cards. Actually, he collected baseball cards from 1959 to 63. So he had, the Mickey Mantles and the Willie Mays and like all the players that we hear about, now that were legends back then. He even had a Babe
Mm,
Ruth card, but it was like I'd consider it a reprint. It wasn't like during the time he played, but it was like a tribute back. But it was,
got it.
from the 60s, so it's still cool. Yeah, and so he's like, "Look, I had these, used to stick them in bike tires. I had them in the attic at my parents' house for all these years." And
Yeah.
so, unlike so many, like his parents didn't throw them out. I mean, they didn't treat them great, but like they didn't
Mm,
throw them out, so he still had them. And he's like, "Hey, you're like the age I was when I started collecting. Here, you have them." And so I started going through them and asking questions about who these guys were, and then I realized, I don't know, maybe a month or two later, they make basketball cards. Like, because
right,
basketball
right.
was my sport. I love watching basketball more than baseball. There's nothing wrong with baseball. I
Yeah.
played in little league and stuff and enjoyed watching the games. But basketball was really my passion. I really enjoyed the game. And so I was like, wow, I could get cards. Like I could do what my dad did, but with something different, slightly different. And so I
Right.
started collecting basketball cards in the early 90s. My peak year of collecting was 1996, which was Kobe's rookie year. It was a lot of big years,
Awesome.
Bulls championship, all sorts of things. And I collected what a lot of kids collected then. The Michael Jordans, the Scottie Pippens and the Dennis Rodmans. You got the three of them that were so quintessential in the Chicago Bulls team.
Right.
But then just anyone that was kind of making a splash at the time. Just like people do today, you prospect and you pick up things, and the card ends up being kind of representation of that. So that's how I got started. Um, I actually, my first retail job ever was in a card store.
Mm,
So I managed a card store when I was 14. Uh,
wow. 14,
Dream
huh?
job when you think about that. It was in a mall in New York.
Wow.
So I'd close up and lock up the store at night, and my friends would visit while I was working during the nights, which was fun because the mall was pretty much dead. But it was just really, that experience of like, well, wax was cheap then too, $2 a pack. Look, I
Right.
never went home with a paycheck. Like, let's get real. Like every cent I made there went right into cards. It was just adding to the collection. So, but
Right.
that's really what like got me interested in it. I went to shows when I was younger too in New York. The
Mm,
one everyone talks about around here is the White Plains show. Is about half an hour outside of New York City, and you had about 300 tables there, so it was a
wow.
sizable show for back then. Sizable show for now too, actually,
Yeah,
even with the
definitely.
resurgence. So yeah, and so that's how I got involved, and I just kind of never put it down. I just always enjoyed it and just kept growing the collection to the point it is now. Um,
Right, right.
yeah.
So has it been pretty consistent? Were there ever times where you kind of pulled away from it, or have you been pretty consistent throughout that
When
time?
I went to college, that was the only time that I really like. It was funny because like I graduated when LeBron was a rookie. I had
Mm,
no LeBrons because I had no money.
right,
You're a recent college grad, no money, looking for a job, not gonna be buying cards right now. So that just happened to be that 0304 era.
right.
So I totally missed out on LeBron. And that's probably why I don't collect him as much as some other players now, is
Mhm,
because I just didn't have that, that start. That
Right.
I don't know, like a lot of the stuff I collect now is going back to veteran players that I collected in the 90s that I just want more of. So
Right. So do you have okay, so speaking of different cards, different players, do you have like a top 3, top 5, or maybe one of your favorite cards that you still have now? Or maybe that you had in the past?
yeah, so I brought out because you had mentioned that you might ask that. I have my biggest card ever, which was when people like they talk about getting a Grail card. I think it's
Right.
funny the way it's used now because people call it, "Oh, I'm going to go get some Grails," and I'm like, there should be one. Like you should narrow it down to one. Like if you've got multiple Grails, that you're, it's not really a Grail anymore. Let's like go back to the
Right.
definition, right? So this card, when I saw it in 2006, I fell in love with it. I saw it at the White
Mhm.
Plains show, actually. I fell in love with it. I wanted it. It was out of my price range. I never
Mhm.
spent the kind of money that it was going for at the time on a card. And so I didn't buy it. And
Got
then
it.
years went on and I still really wanted it. And it was only, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 years ago that I finally picked it up.
Mhm.
So a good 10 years after it came out,
Nice.
I was able to pick it up. And I'm so glad I did because now it's insanely more, but it still is everything that I wanted, within my collection. So it's a Michael Jordan card. It's exquisite collection, which is,
Mhm.
the top, when we're talking about cards that Jordan or LeBron have been involved with, obviously. It's the 2006-7 limited logos, which is an absolute gorgeous card for every reason. Sorry for the
Wow.
reflections, but
No, it looks
um,
good.
bold blue autograph, gorgeous three-color patch. It's actually part of the three on his jersey. I actually figured out where it came from. Matched it up at one point. Um, but I mean, it just had every. I just love the composition of the card. A lot of to me, like cards are art. It's just it's a
Yeah.
form of expression, and the designers behind these things just hats off to them for creating something so beautiful.
Right.
But this had every element that I wanted. I game worn jersey, but not just that, an actual patch that
Mm.
you could actually see where it came from on the jersey, and then on card autograph. So. Um, I still have it. I went through a phase where, not even a phase, but I went through, I think what a lot of people probably went through recently with the market going up so much in the last couple of years. It was probably 2 or 3 years after I bought it, someone offered me about 8 times what I paid for it in
Wow.
cash. And I had a real moment where I had to, like, stop myself and just go, Do I take this? Because 'Cause I'm a collector, I'm not an investor, like, that's not my
Right.
mentality. Like,
Yeah.
I collect these things because I love them and I want them forever. I'm not looking to flip them, I'm not looking to like, that's not why I'm in it.
Right.
And so but, like, that amount of money, it was just so much. And so I
Right.
actually consulted my dad at that point, who never owned a card that was that valuable, but I just said, and he was immediately like, "Well, how are you getting this money? Are they transferring it? Are you gonna show up with a suitcase?" He was, like, going down to the logistics of, like, "Well, obviously you're taking it, it's an insane amount of money."
Right.
And, but then he said, "But wait," he's like, "John, if you take that money, you sell the card. This
Mm.
is a card you wanted for years.
Right.
Are you gonna be looking for another?" And without skipping a beat, I said, "Well, yeah, I would definitely wanna get another one." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Then why would you sell it? Like, would you ever get it for less than you sold it for? Like, do you think this is like a" and I'm like, "No, probably not. It would probably be more." And sure enough, the card is now 3 times what I was offered then. So if I
Wow.
had tried to get another one, I would have been, just flushing money down the toilet just to get one back.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I kept it. But again, I think that's the difference in mentalities in a lot of ways, and
Right.
why I'm in it is because I love owning it. It's also not in a vault. Like I can enjoy it. It's not far away. I can go get it if I want to see it. So I think that's one of the kind of core things too.
Yeah. So okay. So how would you define a Grail card? We talked about it a little bit, but what do you think really truly defines a Grail card? How would you define it?
I think it's something that speaks to you. I think the magic about cards is the fact that they take you back to a
Mm.
memory or a moment or an emotion, something that you feel. And that card takes me back to Jordan playing on the Bulls. Like I start
Right.
flashing highlights in my head of just the things I saw. I only saw him live at one game, but even that
Mm.
game, he had a crazy high scoring amount. Dennis Rodman headbutt the referee in that game in New Jersey and got thrown out and suspended. It was a crazy game to be at, but like it just brings me back, and that
Yeah.
enjoyment and that wonderment. And I remember opening packs, just dying to pull a Michael Jordan card when I was a
Mm.
kid, and just it's that feeling, and I think that's what it's to me, that's what it's about. It's the card. If I was defining a grail, it'd be the card that most closely matched those emotions for
Mm.
me, in a physical good, in a physical thing you could hold, something that kind of captures all of that and represents, that player or that thing that you really love.
Got it. That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um, So, all right. So I know I mean, I follow you on Instagram. I've seen different posts that you've posted. Um, the understanding is that you do have interactions with different athletes. Maybe either, I mean, I think you get cards signed. I'm not exactly sure, but I just wanted
Yeah.
to kind of give an opportunity for you to share maybe the one of the coolest or just most memorable story that you have with another athlete.
Yeah, so I actually don't have too many interactions. I had some,
Okay.
I've gone to signings.
Yeah.
The coolest signed item I have, like with a story behind it, is on the wall back here. I'll grab it. It's a Rodman ball that I got signed. And the cool part of this, it's a Chicago Bulls basketball that I grabbed. I was so lucky. I found this like in a Walmart before the signing. I was like, oh, I gotta do it. But even this, like the story behind it, like I asked him to sign in silver originally. You can see the silver there. And
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, the silver's not going to show up, man. You want it in black." And so I said, "Can we try it?" And so he tried it. He's like, "See, it doesn't work." I'm like, "All right, fine. We'll do it in black." So he had a black paint marker. But um, the thing about signings and like what I always tell people is these players are coming out, they're signing a bunch of autographs. There's two ways that you can get something to really stand out for you. One is what they're signing, which is the kind of the
Mm.
obvious one. Like, what are you having them sign? If you're having them sign the same rookie card that everybody else had them sign, it's not going to be very interesting. It's the same basketball that everyone else is signing. It's not going to be interesting. So I didn't go for the regular Spalding, ball in this case. I said, let me go for something that's got the Bulls logo on it, be red, and that kind of a thing. But
Right.
the second part of it is if they allow you to do an inscription, you usually have to pay more for it. It's an
Mm.
extra fee. But if they allow you to have the item inscribed, really think about something that would be unique when you do that.
Right.
So this is the most unique inscription I've had. It's a quote that I read that Rodman actually spoke at one point. That just seems so true to Rodman, and also something good for. I have had this in my corporate office for a while because I think it's a good message, in a company space too. But it says, "Don't let other people decide who you are."
Hmm.
And coming from Dennis Rodman, like it has a real meaning there, right? I mean, like the
Right.
most individual person you can think in the NBA that stands out, right? Um, but it also, I think, is a good kind of lesson for all of us in our own lives that we're told so much, or even in card collecting, there's
Right.
so much hype. We're told so much to collect this or that or the other thing. Don't let other people decide who you are. I think it's just such an awesome message. So I had him inscribe that on the ball, so that made it super special. And so I always recommend that. Like sometimes the inscriptions are like too expensive. Like there's a signing going on in New Jersey over the weekend with Allen Iverson that I'm going to. So
Nice.
I'm getting a Dunkin' Donuts signed, which I think will look awesome. The
Awesome.
signature on that.
That would look awesome.
Yeah, right. And then the Aurora. I love this like case hit out of Court Kings. Um, those because like the inscription is like his autograph is like $130 there on a card. So it's
Mm.
already pretty expensive. On top of that, I think the inscription's like another 118, 119 or something like that. So it just becomes too expensive at that point to have him add 2 or 3 words, like write the
Right.
answer or something on it, or so unless I find something like cutesy with the Dunkin' Go Nuts thing or something that, like that I think really matches, I'll probably just get it normally autographed. But I think the inscription thing is something really fun that you can do. If it's not too expensive and it can really add to the card. So
Cool. Cool. That's awesome. I really like that
yeah.
story with ramen. Um, so all right. So what's one of your favorite things about collecting cards? And has that ever changed? You know, obviously you've been in this for a while, but if you can maybe share maybe your current favorite thing and maybe your favorite thing when you were younger, type of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of twofold. So, one is what I was mentioning earlier, that notion of like it kind of captures a moment, brings you
Mm.
back. But the
Yeah.
other is like it's the socialization of it. It's the fact that it's a commonality between you and other folks.
Right.
And that is the single thing that has changed the most. I mean, I used to go, as I said, to card shows. I used to go to, we had things at our high school even around cards back in the day in the 90s. Like you'd have like friends that were into it too and collect, and there was just like there's some camaraderie there, and you had a small group of people that you had that in common, and so
Right.
you made friends that way. That was like a cool thing that you had in common. Now with social media, it's like multiplied out by so many more. Like
Mm.
I get probably 50 to 60 DMs a day from
Wow.
different people, and I answer all of them, which takes a lot of time, but, like, I
Yeah.
answer them all. Yours is one of them. When you came in, you're like, it's just I try and answer them in a timely fashion too, where it's
Right.
like, because you never know, like, you're chatting with people and I don't know how I can help them, how they can help me with my collection, whatever it might be. You only
Right.
find out when you kinda go through that discovery. And so, I've found that network just expanding, just exponentially through social media, that I'm finding these new circles and going to big shows like the National or even the Mint Collective in Vegas. I was there and
Oh,
just
nice.
seeing how many people, like, I couldn't walk, 2 minutes and I'm seeing somebody else that's from social media that, like we're finally connecting.
Yeah.
I was there with a friend of mine um, who knows all of the kind of the sports agents and the athletes. And we sat down in Paul Pierce's booth as the whole event was going on. But he was joking to Paul Pierce's agent, saying, "You have no idea. I'm walking around with John for the last 20 minutes, and everyone's stopping him and asking for photographs and autographs and all of this. It's like, what is this?" And I said, "It's just I talk to everybody. It's just like it's the way it
That's
is." And I
cool.
love that aspect of it. I think I was always a social kid. I would no
Mm.
problem talking with people. So I think that the beauty of this is it just opens you up into that whole community where you can
Mm.
really chat with folks. So I think it's great.
That's awesome. So you said you were at Mint Collective. Can you tell us a little bit about that, just that experience? I mean, because I never been to that show, and I
Yeah,
know they
so I mean, they've only done it once. It's the
okay.
first time that it's gone on. It was, I mean, it was done. I think the best summary of it is there was carpeting. I mean, like, it's a funny thing to say, right? But if you think about a card show, for anyone out there that's gone to a card show before, you're usually talking hard floors, your local American Legion or, VFW post or, maybe a school gym.
Mm.
It's like it's you're repurposing an area that's something else that, during the day that you're just stuffing some tables into and having a bunch of people that love sports come in and trade cards.
Right.
This was totally different. This was
Mm.
taking the aspect of a corporation doing an event in Vegas. If you've ever been to a corporate event in Vegas, which I'm sure many viewers have been at some point, if they've been involved with any corporation, everyone ends up there for something at some point. But
Right.
it was that aspect. And so tall ceilings, you just feel like you're in like a huge space.
Mm.
MGM Grand, hotel. I mean, we're talking huge hotel, huge space. Everything was big, carpeting, plush carpeting, and all just that feel of premium. Um,
Mm.
it was amazing for that. It felt very high end, comfortable. Um, it was a great place to meet people, I think, in terms of that. But the price tag of it was so high before
Mm.
they released marketplace tickets. It was like 500 to $1,000 to go. Like, not
Right.
even including the plane tickets, which most people have to fly in. So
Yeah.
it's like, or the hotel. So it's like you normally go to a show for $1 to $10. Like now you're talking like $1,000 to go. Like, what are we doing? So I think
Yeah.
from that aspect, I think that it just didn't allow as many people to come. I think it was a smaller group of people, but it was amazing from just like all of the people that did show.
Yeah.
And the marketplace was only I think $20 to get into, which was basically what a normal show looks like. But I think even there was hard because and I only figured this out the last day there. I usually go to a show and I'm there for like 2 or 3 hours and I leave with a stack of cards this big. I mean, that's just there's boxes to go through. I dive through all the boxes, like, I love that.
Yeah.
I just have so much enjoyment, like, going through cards that it's awesome. I went through the first 2 days of this show and didn't buy a single thing,
Wow.
and I felt like there was something wrong with me. Like, I was like, "What happened? I was like, "Do I have COVID? Like, did I get stung by a bee? Like, I don't wanna buy cards anymore? Like, what's going on?"
Right.
You know? But I think what happened was because everyone flew in, like, almost everybody,
Yeah.
you didn't have that ability to have a table with a bunch of dollar boxes. There was none of that.
Mhm.
It was
Right.
only the high end cards
Mm.
because, and then how many people wanna check their cards on a flight when they're flying in either. So you're really dealing with, like, carry on showcases was what I called it, is what was displayed there. Now the
Yeah.
last day, there was enough time then where other people who flew in that didn't bring ultra high-end cards, like the 40, $50,000 cards, they came in with, the more typical things I'd see at a show, and they traded or sold those to the vendors there. So on the
Mm.
last day there, I actually found a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted, that was more in that 500 to $1,000 range instead of multiple thousands. So either was a great show for meeting people, getting together. Vegas is an amazing town anyway, just to have a get together.
Right.
But I think it'll be interesting to see what they do next time around, with some of that and see how it kind of shakes out. But it was fun.
Got it. That's cool. Yeah, I thought about going. I was like, oh man, the price tag is what kind of deterred me from it. But it still looked like a fun event from what I did see on social media. So
It
um,
was. I mean, it was well put together. I mean, the people that put that together did a really, really good job. It was very thoughtful.
mm,
Um, and I just really, um, yeah, it made a great impression. I mean, it was. I forget who said it, but like um, it was really what we'd want the outside world to see if they were
mm,
thinking about participating in the hobby. It's something that you'd want collectors to see or potential collectors. Um,
right.
because it wasn't that basement that like is half filled with smoke that half looks like a restroom. Like it's just like any number
Yeah.
of these card shows. It was the exact opposite of that. And so it was nice. It was a very welcoming environment, and all the big companies were there.
Mm,
I had done some work with Beckett actually and helping them with their video wall. And so that was really neat. They were debuting some cool stuff there. And then you had Panini had their set up like a whole big booth. eBay had a huge booth in the center. Um,
mm.
they were doing stuff and then they pulled in, Chum Lee from Pawn Stars was there,
Oh, that's funny.
Renee from Storage Wars. And so these guys were, and then they had Emmett Smith signing autographs at the eBay booth for free.
Right.
As I mentioned, Paul Pierce was brought in by DraftKings to do the big party that they did at the nightclub there. So there was a lot of like really cool things, aspects to it. And everyone was super approachable. I mean, you could
Mm,
just go up to people and talk with them. If you wanted to talk with Chum Lee about something, there's no problem. It didn't feel like the battles outside of Target. People waiting in line trying to get a pack of retail wax to go flip on eBay. Like it was the exact opposite of that. So
got it. Got it. That's funny.
yeah.
Um, so so speaking, I know we were talking about shows a little bit. I know that you I think we talked about this before. I know that you went to National last year.
Yes.
And I was there last year. Are you planning on going to the new show this year?
Absolutely. I'll be there all of the days this coming year in Atlantic City. It's closer to home. So I live in Connecticut, about like an hour and a half away.
Nice. So what did you think about last year's show? I know the year before last year, I think they canceled it, right?
They did.
I think
Yeah.
because of COVID, they didn't have it. So what did you think about the national last year? Like
I
what you
mean,
experienced?
It was the most booming show I've ever seen. I mean, there were
Mhm.
more, and I had a lot of friends that I was not set up there, but I had a lot of friends that were set up there, and there were more people from what they told me on the Wednesday when it opened, which is the quietest day,
Right.
than the Saturday 2 years previous, which is normally the busiest day.
Wow.
So when your slowest day is even better than your busiest day, I mean, it just speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you were there as well. It was
Yeah.
very crowded,
Yeah.
hard to find
Definitely.
stuff. I didn't feel like I could really do many trades. I picked up 2 cards there. I can't remember what the second one is. I remember what one was. Picked up a Jordan shoe jersey combo card that I've been looking for.
Nice.
Um, so that literally was in the last 10 minutes I was at the show. I was about to leave for the airport, and I was like, "Whoa, this guy's got
Wow.
it. Like, can we work out a deal?" And he's like, we'll do a deal." So I was like, "Right, I love this."
Nice.
Um, but
That's
yeah, I think for anyone that's thinking about going, I mean, that's the show. I mean, that's
right.
where the most people are going to show up. And the only thing that was missing from that show last year that you went to that would have been there in years previous were the international folks. They were missing. So a lot of the
Mm,
folks that come in from China normally, they had insane restrictions there that if they
mm.
re-entered they had to sit in quarantine for 2 or 3 weeks in a hotel specified for people quarantining. It's not like our quarantining here is nothing. Our quarantining, when we were shut down, like, so no one really came in from
Mm.
abroad in a bunch of these places. So that's really the exciting thing that I'm looking forward to this year is because I think a lot of that hopefully will be opened up again, and so we'll
Yeah.
get to see some of those faces from some of the other countries.
Nice. Yeah. I didn't even think about that, to be honest. But when I went last year, that was my first time ever going. So,
What did you
um,
think of it?
man, I had so much fun. I was just like, I just couldn't believe it. All the tables, all the cards, um, just so many different options. It was definitely crowded. But man, I just had so much fun. I browsed through just tons of cards. I bought some cards. I didn't spend a whole lot of money. I mean, just because I was already just spending money just to travel there.
Yeah.
For me, it was more about, okay, I just want to experience this and just see what it's all about. So I loved
That's
it.
that's the best part, really. I tell that to people all the time. Like that's what you'll take away are the memories from there, the people you met, the trade nights you went to. I did the logo for the trade night last year. I'm doing it for this year too. That Roadshow Cards was Kentucky Roadshow and Card Collector 2 co-sponsor. It's actually, I think it's getting the official distinction this year from the National as well. That'll be on
Nice.
Thursday night this year. I don't know what hotel it's at yet, but that's did you go to that trade night? Were you at
I
that one?
didn't. I did not go to there. No, I didn't
So
go.
that was the most well attended of the trade nights. I mean, it was they got a proper ballroom that they rented out. They had food and drinks that were complimentary. They had T-shirts they were giving away with the logo, and they got PJ Washington from the Hornets to come and do autograph signing for
Oh,
free.
nice.
So you could just bring stuff and get it signed. So Jimmy, who's Kentucky Roadshow, a lot of people know him as Kentucky Basketball Cards on Instagram. He started this and then Ryan took it over, Card Collector 2 some years ago, and then they've been joint doing it again. Now that Jimmy's opening up multiple stores across the country as well. So I help on like branding aspects for those guys too. Like I do logo design and I worked on their websites and things. That's kind of my life outside that relates back to cards, and finding your way to, kind of work in your passion however much you can, I think is always great. And so,
Oh, that's cool.
that's been fun as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. So if you don't mind, we have a question. So this is actually, I'm gonna put this on the screen. This is my dad right here. So, um,
Nice.
yeah, this is my dad. He's joining us. I got the whole family in here.
I
Not
love
the
it.
whole family, but almost. So my dad's saying, where you located? Is that a LeBron jersey in the background? So
I
we
only
got
have an Iverson jersey, a Jordan jersey, and a Magic jersey on the wall. I don't have a LeBron jersey. I do have a LeBron autographed shoe that I got in a trade more recently.
nice.
That was awesome. I collect like that. You can see like how many shoes I have lined up back here. These are all autographed by the players. Some of
Oh,
them are game
nice.
worn, some of them are player issues, most of them are not game worn. Most of them are the right size though, which is crazy. The biggest shoe I have, which I don't know, see, I take this camera off here. The biggest shoe I have is over in here. That's my Shaq shoe. If you can see it on the
Oh, I can see it.
right there, yeah, it's pretty big. That's my Shaq shoe. It's a size 22.
Wow.
Um, totally insane. But it's got the Reebok pump. You know, it's you're the old school '90s pump. Um, but I love that stuff. I always felt like the shoes, and that's why I collected them. I felt like the shoes were something that were more closely identified with a player. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, the jersey has their name on it, but they're all wearing the same jersey, whereas the
Right.
personality comes out in the shoes. So I've been a big collector of the shoes. Shoe cards are one of my major collections as well.
Hmm.
You know, and I love that stuff.
Awesome. So I know we talked a little bit about this, about social media and how you get about 50 DMs a day. Do you feel like there's like a common or like most asked question? Like I'm just kind of curious if there's something you feel like you get asked a lot.
What should I buy? I mean, it's a lot. And I always tell people the same things on that. You know, you should go for something that you really truly love. Like
Mm,
again, bringing you back to that memory. I always told people my very first video on YouTube, I actually said it because I did a whole video about, you know, the difference between collecting and investing. I said the collector mentality is like, I'm buying this and I don't care if I ever sell it. I don't care about
mm,
the money. I want this more than the money. It means
right.
that much to me. Whatever I'm spending on it, I'd rather have this. And I want to keep it forever. That's your mentality when you're buying, and that's my mentality overall.
Yeah.
So when people ask, they're like, "How do I get into flipping? Should I be grading stuff and all this kind of stuff?" I'm like, "I'm not." That's the most commonly asked question I get. But I'm like, "I'm not the person to coach you on how to flip." You know,
Right.
but I can tell you from my experience when I've bought stuff that I really love, other people love it too. You know,
Right.
like it's not rocket science. There's a ring
Yeah.
like I collected Michael Jordan in the '90s. You know, I wasn't the only person to do that. I
Right.
was
Right.
interested in Jordan and still, you know, so yeah, I think that's the most commonly asked thing that I
Mm,
get, for better or for worse. But I some folks are looking to value cards, and I try and show them how to comp out on eBay, but also to be mindful about the fact that, you know, depending on where they sell it, if you know, look, you live in Boston and you're looking at eBay for comps and you have a Celtics card, maybe you should go to a local show, you know, if you're really
mm,
looking to sell something, because those cards are going to do better in the local Boston area where people are super passionate about the Celtics than they are on eBay. You'll get more, you know. So some of that comes through too if people are looking for that. But yeah, yeah.
oh, cool. Um, so how long have you been on Instagram? What made you want to go to Instagram?
So it's funny. I despise social media in general, like, and especially Facebook. I mean, it's just I don't like. My kids have never been pictured on the internet. Like
Mm,
just part of it was because when I was in college, all of this stuff was being created, and I knew a lot of the people that were behind these things,
yeah.
these social media platforms. And your information, like once it's out there for forever. You know,
Right.
it's not they can take it down, but it's not really. It's there.
Yeah.
And so like I was a huge fan of them, and but Instagram, especially when I started with it, there was no algorithm. It
Mm,
was just whoever you followed, you got in chronological order the photos that they posted. So if you followed 10 people and you know someone posted something new, great. If no one posted anything new, you didn't get anything new in your feed.
right.
Um, and there was something beautiful about just moving your finger up the screen and being able to look at cards like
Right.
you're at a show or in a catalog, or, you know, like just
Yeah.
fascinating being able to see so much. And so I created this account where, you know, and my name basketball card guy actually came from my doing shows. You know, I was doing
Mm,
shows for years and setting up, and I was the only guy at the show that only had basketball.
mm,
Like, everybody else, if they had basketball, they had a mix. It was baseball and hockey and football. Like, it was never just basketball.
right.
And so I was known as the basketball card guy, you know, like, like almost in a derogatory way. Like they're like, look at that idiot. Like he put all his money into that, it's
Yeah.
like he's. But that was what I was passionate about.
Right.
And so I figured, what, I'll pop on Instagram. I think it was 2016. And I started my account and it was all about basketball. My original name was NBA Trader. And then I
Mm,
decided as I was doing shows, it was like I probably don't want to have anything that mentions the NBA because they're probably litigious. So I don't want to go down there. So I was like, basketball, that's a term that's not owned by anybody. I can use that. And
right.
so, and that's what I was called anyway, even when I had, the NBA Trader name. So, started doing that. And then, yeah, it just, I love the aspect of being able to see other people's collections. And that's why it's funny. Like, and I don't mean any offense to folks. Like sometimes people will reach out and they go, "Hey, I just followed you. Can you follow me?" And
Mm,
I'll like very politely, I'll look at their profile and I'll be like, "Okay, well, your profile is 90% football.
mm.
It's not my sport. So I'm not going to follow you, not because I don't want to give you a follower and it makes you feel better to have more followers, but I just don't want to have a bunch of football cards in my feed. Like it's not interesting to me.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said at the beginning, like it really doesn't matter how many followers you have. Like the point is that you have quality. That you have people that
Mm,
when you post something, they actually care about it, and
right.
that you're making an impact. And all of the things that you've said throughout this interview is amazing to me. Like that you've you've been following. You've watched a lot of this, the construction of this stuff back here and that, and I
Mm,
love that. Like if it can make an impact, that's why I do it. That's why I share it. So
awesome. That's cool. All right. Well, you know what? I want to definitely be mindful of your time. I
sure,
know you're on the East Coast. Um, so if we can, if you're cool with just going with one more question, and then we
absolutely,
can,
yeah,
we can go ahead and wrap it up. So this is my mom right here. So make sure you're really
yeah.
nice to her response. Um, so she just wants to know about the story behind the Shaq shoe. How did you get it? Like, can you tell us
That
about it?
one's a pretty straight retail story. So Shaq had a deal with Steiner Sports, which was
Mm,
Brandon Steiner's company before he sold it off to Fanatics. He now has a new company. But Steiner Sports was in New York. They actually went out and they had Reebok make, I don't know how many of these, maybe 500. I don't know. Like
mm,
they had them make the size 22 shoes because you can't go to a store and buy a size 22 Reebok. Um,
right, right.
and they had Shaq sit down at the Steiner offices and sign them all.
Mm,
This one, it's funny, I had saved up a whole bunch of money on I have an Amazon credit card, and you get like 5% cash back on every purchase on Amazon. And I'd probably gone like 2 or 3 years. I'd saved up like $800 on Amazon cash, or all the stuff that I bought. I buy way too much stuff on there for work and for everything else. So I had this $800 in cash, and I noticed that Steiner had a partnership with this other company, and they had one of this shoe for sale through Amazon. You could pay through Amazon. So I was like, it was basically free in reward money. And so I decided to grab it. But the person that actually ran this company said, "Hey, I know you purchased the regular one that he just autographed, but I have 34 of a limited edition. Like we did this with Signer. We did a 34 limited edition where he actually inscribes Hall of Fame 16 four-time champs." And
mm.
he's like, "You seem to be really into this. I would love to give you that instead of the
Wow.
regular one." And I'm like, "Yes, thank you." And had a whole conversation with this guy back and forth in messages and stuff. So I ended up with a one, it's numbered, and the certificate, mentions the same thing, that it's the limited edition version at 34. Um, but it's just such a super cool, I mean, it's just so oversized and like out of this world. It's
Right.
like a clown shoe when you really get down to it. It's just comedically large. I mean, you remember like being at a birthday party when you're a kid and like those big red shoes, like it feels like that. And It's just incredible. So it's one of those ones that it's still my largest shoe in the collection. I don't think anyone's going to top that.
I'm
Um,
sure. I'm sure they won't. Yeah.
but yeah, but it's awesome, and I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, man, I really just want to say thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time
Absolutely.
just to respond to my DM on Instagram and actually take the time to do the interview. I really appreciate it
My
and just
pleasure.
everything that you shared.
Oh, my pleasure. Like I said, I'm always willing to help out. And I just feel like, you're going out there, you're doing the right stuff. And it should be good, man. It should be good.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Well, you have a good night out there, and hopefully we'll be able to talk soon.
Absolutely. See you soon.
All right. All right. Take care.